Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Marketing with Nathan A. Webster podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Webster, and I'm excited to chop it up with you today. Today, I want to focus on in episode 49 ad blockers and digital privacy. A lot of things I don't get talked about, but it's a grazing of the surface or a broad stroke, or we're just going to give it an honorable mention. We really haven't gone into this as anything that in regards to topic or any articles, but that's gonna end today with my main man, the PDX marketing godfather, Kent Lewis from Anvil Marketing. What's up, Kent?
It's a pleasure to be here as always. Thanks for having me, Nathan.
Hey, man, I'm glad you're here. Can you please tell the worldwide listeners who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so name is Kent Lewis. I am just across the river from Nathan in Portland, Oregon. And in 2020, I launched an agency, Anvil. We're a digital marketing agency, and we do a lot of digital advertising. And so this topic is close to our hearts, the whole ad blocker concern and challenge for marketers and branders. And look forward to connecting on that. If you want to follow me, I'm at Kent J. Lewis on Twitter. You can connect with me on LinkedIn at Kent Lewis, one of the early adopters. So I have a pretty good URL there. And check us out at anvilmedia.com. We have a ton of free resources on our website.
Awesome, thanks, Ken. I'm glad we got that out of the way because I usually do it towards afterwards. And for those that are still kind of like, should I listen to this? Should I not? Let me just set this up the best way I can. So the last time I went to the Portland Trailblazer game, which is our local NBA team, I decided it was no big deal. I'm going to the game. It's just the spirit of going to a basketball game. I sat in the nosebleeds. We know those to be 300 level seating. And I have sat courtside before, but this is the last time I went. I have now been in the marketing role for quite some time. And before, when I sat on courtside, I had it. But one thing that I just, and if you could be there with me, if you can sit to the left, to the right of me, or right below me, or on maybe above me, which I have sat in the very last row, it's very hard to see the game. So what you got to do, you got to look at the big Univision, or what do you want to call it, television that they put up for you. But right above it, they have their own banner of where you have, it's like their own version of commercials. And I got so tired of looking at the ads. Me and my girl, we were just like, we can't take it no longer because there were so many ads. And I wish I could stop looking at the ads and just focus on the game, and I couldn't. And so as I see you nodding, Ken, I know you know what I'm talking about. And so for that, I use an ad blocker even as a web browser. So what's your take on ad browsers that, or excuse me, browsers that are ad blockers, or the digital privacy stuff that's coming out with all this new 2021? Let's protect people's privacy.
So let's start with the side topic that we'll save for another day, which is the iOS by Apple, the new the 10 or 14, I believe, basically has a
Mm-hmm.
default. Instead of like on Android, your default is ads are okay, but on the new iOS, the phone's automatically updated. All the iPhones, you default and opt out of any advertising, and the way that what that means is you're no longer able to be cookied by marketers and advertisers, publishers, brands. You are anonymous at that point. So what that's really doing is creating this throwback to the old days of advertising when you are targeting groups of people versus individuals. On one hand, I think it's interesting because Apple's traffic went down, ad spend went down, ad rates went down immediately after this took effect in the last week or two. And but what it's doing is forcing brands to build their own direct relationships with their customers, build their database basically,
Mm-hmm.
and for advertisers to go back to fundamentals and have to advertise smarter, more omnichannel, let's say, versus just a lot of folks argue that it's the cookie approach is very lazy. But what I will say is it's definitely going to have a huge impact on the small mom and pop stores that don't have big marketing teams and market research teams and big advertising software and capabilities. They rely on Google, and if their customers are heavily skewed towards Apple, they're going to have some trouble. And I'm not sure when Google's, going to do their own thing with the Chrome browser, and their answer to that is something called Flock, which is basically groups of people. You can target anonymously groups of people, and there are arguments for and against that approach. There are certainly flaws. So the bottom line is advertising on the online is changing, and we're all both seeing how it's going to play out, and we're also hoping for the best. But we have to make moves with our clients on the digital side, on the ad side in particular. So the ad blockers have been around for years and years, well over a decade. But what's interesting is it held steady the usage of ad blockers, particularly on desktops, at around 250 million users. And it stayed that way for the last 3 or 4 years. But what's interesting is that mobile ad blockers have significantly grown in that time. So they've nearly doubled in use. So what's happening is people are downloading and installing ad blockers or using ad blocker friendly browsers because, for number one, they want to avoid interruption and annoyance. Ads can be very intrusive. They also want to protect against malware. 2/3 of people realize that it's the ads. Intrusive ads can also contain some malware that can attack your phone or your desktop. And then there's just the privacy, 58%, according to some Statista research on that. So right now, 27% of the internet is using ad blockers, at least according to Statista. Now, what the challenge obviously is posed is if your ads are blocked, what are you paying for, right? So as a brand, how do you advertise if you can't get your ads seen because of ad blockers? So the folks that are leading the charge to try and battle this are the publishers. So the big publications that just generate their revenue through, if it's not primarily subscription, it's going to be ad revenue. So there are a variety of ways that publishers, from the big players, a Wall Street Journal, to the big magazine publishers that have large aggregate sites, to just online e-zine and entertainment sites. And I'd say Yahoo would be one of those. Is there a variety of steps they're taking? And the first step they're taking is they are really, some are just staying the course. Let's see how this plays out. But that's a very dangerous game. You have to, I think, have a plan A, B, and C. Some are leaning into it. They're embracing the adoption. So that's easier because only a minority of sites are not reliant heavily on ad revenue, are looking at other options like subscription models and other elements. So the other option is you either lean in or you lean way back. So Microsoft and Google are taking a more strategic approach. They're going the whitelisted route. So it's kind of ironic that they're saying, we believe in this, but we are ad platforms by definition. So what you're looking for is trying to be fair and balanced, because it's obviously somewhat of a conflict of interest to say we support ad blockers, but by whitelisting we can allow certain things in. So some publishers are going the route of loyalty programs or reward programs. Condé Nast, Time, New York Magazine, they're looking at rewarding, super fans and readers. And again, I think if you're not going to go subscription, then a loyalty program could be the solution. Others are looking at a better user experience, UX. So focusing on speed and minimizing advertising, maybe moving towards sponsorships. Others are less flexible. So the middle of the road, leaning towards a more stringent pushback, is educating readers on what it means to block ads. We can't stay in business if you block our ads. You're making a choice, and inform them of the choice. Wired magazine was very aggressive in this approach a couple of years ago. but they say that it's probably not effective because people, until you can't access the information, you're not going to like donate or make a lot of changes. A few publishers are literally doing everything they can to fight it. They're going rogue. They're creating software and URL tweaking algorithms and URL shorteners to get around ad blockers. That's going to be a never-ending battle. And so then others are saying, well, doing that may also be going the lobbyist route and pursuing legal action. Although I will
Mm,
say that a German publisher has been suing IO, the creator of AdBlock Plus, the biggest player in the market, and has lost the last 5 years in legal battles. They keep appealing it, so it's expensive, it's slow moving, and it hasn't worked yet.
mm,
So I think that the most common response we're seeing is building a paywall, right? So the subscription model, and so you'll have minimal ads, and then on the free stuff, and then if you want to see anything more robust, then you're going to need to get a paid subscription. YouTube, Next Web, and others are doing that. And then there's playing hardball. So basically, full on blocking ad blockers. You can't see our content. Uh, Hulu and others have taken this angle. Forbes is looking at it and has explored this as well as GQ magazine, at least the online. So,
mhm.
what I'm saying though is it's all about. I think you got to balance user experience, friendly layouts, and I believe, frankly, like a paywall option. So you might have some free content as a teaser or limited access to 3 to 4 articles like Harvard Business Review, that sort of thing. Others do that as well. And then you want more, you got to access to kind of give people that freemium experience, but to lure in subscribers. So that's kind of the bottom line. The reason this is so important is that the estimated lost revenue in 2020 due to ad blockers was almost $28 billion, right? So that's worldwide. That's a big loss.
That's
So
huge.
there are some, yeah. So there are some other thoughts I have, but I think that's the big takeaway. We can talk next about what brands can do because that was the publisher side, but there's more to say. But I'm guessing you want to take a pause here real quick.
No, I mean that was a lot of information. Some of y'all might want to rewind and think about that as well. I mean, immediately what came to mind, you started talking publisher. Immediately, I went to the 2007, 2008 Seattle Times. Are one of the first folks that said we're no longer distributing hard paper, hard copy newspapers. We're going straight to digital. You're going to need a subscription. Locally with the Colombian. It forced them to move out of their brand new spanking building and out back to the old building, which they built, and they sold it for dimes to which they put an auction. The city of Vancouver grabbed it, and we don't realize how big of a deal ads are to the entertainment industry. And I remember when I first bought my DVR, it also came with on demand, and on demand at the time was ad free. But now you have even ads within on demand if you don't pay for the true, as you said, premium prescriptions. I know with Amazon, or no, I think the Hulu Plus, for example, it can be ad free. So sometimes I think we say like, oh, I don't, as we're talking about ad blocker, it is the true elimination of brands that are getting themselves out to a potential prospect. And like you said, with mom and pop, small local stores, if they need new customers, it's hard to put themselves out there unless they have a way to get to the masses. And this is creating that the another disruption, if you will, coming to where we won't have any small mom and pops that already are not buy in or selling something on a main platform like Amazon.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. And the other thing to keep in mind here is that one solution is to do good. So, if you look at why people block ads, so just top of mind, you use an ad blocking browser. Why do you block ads?
One, I don't like being remarketed to. Second, it gets tiring of, and I'm careful of the sites I go to, but it's very distracting from which I already am easily distracted. But I don't want to be sold and marketed and pitch over and over, especially when I see the remarketing pieces come in. Just because I looked at a car and now I'm seeing it on on different web browsers and social sites I go to.
Right, right. So you are like many others. So if there are a couple things that you just said that are worth unpacking as a marketer. Number one, ads are annoying. So particularly remarketing ads, meaning you visit a site and then for the next month or three, you get ads for whether you bought the product or not, whether the product was for you or not, or was a gift.
Mhm.
It can be intrusive. So be really smart about how you use retargeting and remarketing because it can be very annoying. Use only the best creative, right? So ugly stupid ads are seemingly more intrusive. Also look at the context of where the ad is displayed. So you want to be as inobtrusive as possible to not be disruptive. You want to make sure it's obviously relevant. I think, Nathan, if the ads only hit you at the time you were interested in the product, you wouldn't feel the way you do. But it's very
That's
hard,
facts. That's a
right?
diamond right there.
Right.
It's
So
true.
if you're thinking, man, I really wish, oh, wow, here it is. That's what I was looking for. Every, one in a million, you'll get that hit. But the goal is to do that as
Hmm.
often as possible. And then, keeping in mind that the fewer the ads, whether you're the publisher or the advertiser, if there are 20 ads on a page, you just wasted your money. You're not going to stand out. So be really smart about where you advertise, when, etc. So a couple parting thoughts. So keep in mind that you're serving ads to people, not just impressions, right? You are trying to get a message across to
Oh,
an end user, right? And then
not
the other,
just impressions, huh?
yeah,
That's a diamond right there. That's a whole topic right there. Mm.
yeah. Now I won't take total credit for that. Randall Rothenberg is the president CEO of the IAB, said that. So serve people, not ads, not impressions, right?
Mm. So
But
true.
when I talk to my team about this, like what do we suggest as workarounds? It is getting whitelisted. So a lot of the ad blockers have outlined best practices, and if you can get whitelisted, you can get through the ad blockers with really quality ads to the people you want to get to. So that's one important workaround beyond some of these other do great advertising, right?
Hmm.
And then the other potential workaround is in-app advertising. So less intrusive, more contextually relevant, but also less inventory, more difficult to find ads within apps because ad blockers can't deal with apps. So, so that could be a workaround. But I think the bottom line is what's happening is iOS with the default to turn cookies off, making you anonymous. And then
Hmm.
also with ad blockers blocking ads, you have no anonymous, you have anonymity, which protects your privacy. And then you have less advertising in your life. So every ad that can get through has more impact. So you have to think a lot more creatively about what you're saying and when, what the creative itself looks like or feels like, where it goes. All of this just means you have to be a better marketer to survive. And that's where that original argument of cookies are lazy. It's true. It's easy to get comfortable when you can just set it and forget it, but that's not no longer going to be possible. And frankly, that's a good thing to shake up. And I think the low quality ad publishers, the low quality advertisers or brands will quickly run out of revenue or focus and disappear. So you'll end up with a better quality
Hmm.
experience for the end user. That's the theory. We'll see what happens.
And in order for you to really not make that a difference or a major player in your marketing, you have to be you. So, which means you probably need to go to our podcast sponsor, NW Love. Go to nwlove.com to get your BU hoodie, tee, long sleeve t shirt, get your coffee mug, because the problem is you ain't being you. And to get that ROI of the bottom of the funnel, which we talked about already. Also, our podcast sponsors, show some love. make sure you go to ndublove.com, because what Kent just said, which I love, to get whitelisted, I think is a whole nother ball game, a strategy that I don't think some people even understand. Of course, blacklisted, but that's a term that's used just to getting in the club. But now we're talking about getting your product out there to the masses, and we haven't even talked about whether or not the internet's going to be free. Now we're blocking ads and everything else from privacy. So this is just like a whole new ball game, and it's a war between the have and the have not. So it's becoming real. I don't think even as marketers, our job is that much harder. And for any other business out there that really wants to grow and scale, it just takes that much more of an effort, because no one's walking anywhere like we used to. Just to be a destination spot on the internet is so difficult. And if you're not a big boy, big girl that people already know about, your brand's going to take a major hit, especially if you can't get your ad out there. So you already did write an article on this. Where can they find this at, my man?
This article is, oh man, I just closed it. It is at, where did I put this on? SEMPDX. Hold on. Yeah, I put it on sempdx.org. It's on their blog. I contribute regularly to sempdx.org, and it's called Ad Blockers: The Impact and Implications for Publishers and Advertisers. So check it out on sempdx.org's blog.
And we'll also put that in the show notes as well. So, Kent, for the last time, for those that didn't catch it on the very beginning of the podcast, where can they find you at on social?
I can be found at Kent J. Lewis on the Twitter, at Kent Lewis on the LinkedIn. Just look for the Kent Lewis from Portland, Oregon, that looks a lot like me if you're watching the video version of this podcast, and at anvilmedia.com.
Awesome. Well, Kent, as always, man, it's a pleasure, a pleasure, a pleasure, a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Nathan. As always, I agree. It's always an enjoyable and informing experience.
You just cut out, but yeah, say that one more time just in case, because my audio cut out.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, as always, it's a pleasure to be on your show. I look forward to next time.
Awesome. Awesome. And thank you for all you worldwide listeners that have subscribed. For those that haven't subscribed, please do. And if you're listening on this platform, we're on other platforms such as Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, and Stitcher. If you haven't done so already, please rate and review the show. And if you haven't done so already, please also share it with somebody. And so until next time, thank you for joining Let's Talk Marketing with Nathan A. Webster's podcast. I wish you the very best. So dream big and Godspeed.